A lot of people feel like they have to say something completely new every time they show up online. But trying to constantly be new is one of the biggest reasons people struggle to stay consistent. There's this quiet belief that if you repeat yourself, people will lose interest. So you push yourself to come up with fresh ideas over and over again. Now, that pressure makes showing up feel very hard, harder than it needs to be. I've felt this pressure myself while creating regularly. At times I would sit down and record or write and think, I already talked about something like this, didn't I? And I need to find something that's different, a different angle, right? So instead of reinforcing a clear message, I would stretch into something completely new just to avoid the repetition. What I didn't realize was that by avoiding repetition, I was making it a lot harder for people to recognize what I actually stood for. That's when I began to understand how visibility actually works. People don't connect because you say something new. They connect because they hear something familiar enough to remember. Repetition is not a mistake. It's how understanding actually grows. When someone hears your message once, it's just information. But when they hear it again, it becomes more recognizable. And when they hear it consistently, it actually becomes associated with you. That's how brands form in people's minds, not through constant novelty, but through steady reinforcement. I've seen brands become clearer simply because they allowed themselves to repeat their core ideas. They didn't have to or even try to reinvent their message every week. They stayed anchored in what actually mattered the most. And over time, their audience began to understand them faster because the message stayed consistent. Trying to always be new can always and actually hide your message instead of strengthening it. Visibility grows through consistency, not creativity alone. So you can approach the same idea in different ways, but the core direction should stay the same always. Think of it less as repeating words and more as reinforcing meaning. When you give yourself permission to repeat what matters, showing up becomes a lot easier. You spend less time searching for new ideas. You spend more time communicating clearly, and your audience begins to recognize patterns in what you share. Those patterns build familiarity, and familiarity will build trust. You don't need to say something new every day. You need to keep saying what matters so people can truly understand it. Consistency isn't about constant change. It's about steady presence. And that steady presence is what allows your brand to become recognizable over time. Now, if you're working on showing up more consistently without feeling pressure to reinvent yourself, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode, friend. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your support, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then like and subscribe to support Brand Impact 365 with LaMorvielle. And if you are struggling with your brand impact, then watch the next video.